Hello, welcome to my lecture, Metaphor Physics. My lecture is organized into 4 parts. Today's talk is the third part of my lectures. Before starting part 3, let me briefly review what I have talked in the previous lectures. In part 1 and 2, I introduced a new academic field, Metaphor Physics, which aims to resolve many mind-related food problems. Thus, I have talked about the consciousness method theories as the fundamental ground for understanding consciousness realities. Since subjective experience is life course dependent of self, in different cycles, different experiences are encountered. I also talk about the configuration of life cycles for the understanding of the mind and body issues. Let me talk about today's lecture part 3, Consciousness Approaches to Food Science. We have many food-related issues including consumption, choice, acceptance, preference, satisfaction of food, and eating behaviors. The consciousness approaches to food science is differentiated from the conventional material approaches in many aspects, in terms of terminology, definition, concept, and philosophy. In general, food is obtained from biological resources which are mass-bound CAC, called by CACM. We consume them as nutrients and energy sources for both body and mind. From the perspective of hierarchical multiple CMR, food CACM retains its relevant potential nature as previously mentioned about CACP. The higher CMR, the better capability and role in the life cycle of a CM system. Accordingly, food has to be rated on the basis of the relevant CMR of the food resource. For instance, a meat CACM from the resource in higher CMR is better rated than a vegetable CACM from that of lower CMR. How about cooking food? We put various ingredients into a pan and mix them, followed by heating and so on. So far as the ingredients CACMs retain the original nature of CACs, cooking is the transformation of the individual CACMs into another consciousness reality called mere CACM. Consequently, cooking is a creating work of an art piece made of various CACMs. In these lines, cooked food is an information package containing various types of subjective experiences of the individual ingredients carrying different individual life courses and time units. From the perspective of CACP, food is cooked by cooker's experience called experience of CACP. Eating is the reception of external CACMs into body and minds of self, the inseparable dual consciousness beings, and merges into CM system through decomposition and synthesis with changing their status. As the newcomer in CM world, foods affect existing beings, the members of CM system, including self, CACM, and CACP. While eating self encounters many experiences, tasting food and partitioning food CACM into smaller pieces, CA, CF fragments, and CF dust, and compounds them into new CAs and CACs as belly dancers repeatedly plays gathering and segregation performances. Therefore, eating serves as a gateway and opportunity for insight of invisible nature of internal consciousness world. Everybody has own image of food in minds and keep its as own abstract image of food in folders labeled with virtual food for frequent uses, including decision-making for food acceptance and evaluation of food taste. Let's take the example of virtual foods along with the consciousness pathway, and it shows how an external world, strawberry, is interlinked with internal world. The colors and the size of the strawberries stand for the states of virtual foods. Red color represents positive influencing virtual foods, and violet a negative influencing virtual food, respectively. The size represents the influence intensity of virtual food. To explain food acceptance and food taste, I need to introduce the well-known mere consciousness theories developed by Vishwabandhu, wherein consciousness message theory is originated. The theories describes that human's consciousness system is functioning under the hierarchical operation system composed of 4 consciousness layers, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and 8th consciousness layers as presented in this figure, and is compared with CM theories. The difference between two is that the definition of consciousness layer is further categorized into level and layer called CML. Thus, one CML of CM system may include several consciousness layers, that of Vishwabandhu. Virtual food is classified into 3 types: virtual food 1, virtual food 2, and virtual food 3. The figure below shows how virtual foods are related in consciousness processings. I organized the food and non-food issues into 2 categories pertaining to the elements of relevant consciousness layer as listed in table. The objective categories include those attributes of food addressed by food sensory science. The subjective categories covers non-food related issues like food acceptance and food satisfaction associated with subjective experiences. Virtual foods. Taking the example of eating strawberries, the virtual food will be the issues highlighted with red colors in this table, and it is perceived as virtual food 1 that corresponds to experience of CACM. The knowledge about the strawberries is virtual food 2 that is equivalent to experience of CACP, and preference is virtual food 3 that is also equivalent to experience of CAC. In conjunction to the virtual food, I will talk about virtual hungers, abbreviated by VH. Hunger is similarly defined as appetite, and it arises by direct physical emptiness of stomach and indirect context by thinking about food. So far as one feels hunger in spite of a full stomach state, the hunger is not matter of material issues, and self remains in affective hunger state. Thus, affective hunger is defined by the difference between virtual hunger and physical hunger as described by affective hunger equation. Accordingly, when we fail to control the virtual hunger, the consequence will be either obesity and pickiness. Food acceptance is very important issue because it is closely related to various food-related behaviors, including preference, consumption, and satisfaction of food. I'd like to talk about a new food acceptance model based on CML theories. Food acceptance is controlled by the hierarchical operation under the participation of several consciousness layers or CMLs. When a food matches well to the virtual food in mind, it will be accepted. If not, the food will be rejected. Those non-physical virtual foods plays an important role in shaping new expectation about the food by motivating acceptance. The mechanism of food acceptance is illustrated by this flow diagram. There are 3 loops operating with different time units. The higher, the faster. The rectangular loop at the bottom represents a feedback regulation mechanisms. The actuator at inlet site regulates food inlet according to the results of comparison between incoming signal and virtual food located as 7th consciousness layer. Here, the most crucial factor in the set value of virtual food that is not constant but varies according to the virtual hungers, VH. When the comparison is positively significant, attention arises from 6th consciousness layer pointing to the actuator and allows to accept the food. I simplified the food acceptance process by this module. Now, let me explain why the overconsumption of food happens when the affective hunger remains positive. Valve is fully open to continue intake food. Thus, overconsumption is resulted. In contrast, food pickiness occurs when affective hunger EH is negative regarding to particular food items. The picky taster has a limited number of butcher food, and so when food to match VF is not found, the regulating valve is not allowed to open. It leads avoid to accept food. Food preference has been shaped based on individual subjective experiences of the particular foods tasted in the past. When one has a preference for certain foods, one has no hesitation for accepting the food. Therefore, food preference leads to many food-related behaviors, not only in positive but also negative ways. Many believe that individuals' food behavior, including food preference, is genetic-related matters affected by parents. Pregnancy is a unique life-creating phenomenon with transmigration of self to another one's, but the mother herself does not know when another self, baby CACP, comes to her, mom CACP, until particular symptoms appears after some time. One of the symptoms is emissus gravidarum, known as morning sickness, which affects the appetite, taste, and the perception of food. During pregnancy, food for mother has to be shared by the baby CACP to convert into mass-bound states baby CACM and its growth. At here, a serious confliction is taking place between two selves, mom CACM and baby CACM, for food and gives them hard time. According to my survey, 84% pregnant women experienced this sickness, and those they have very difficult time at the early phase for several months long. How these things is happen? What is the effects on food life? We can access to this problem with the concept of confliction and compromise between two selves. The morning sickness is started from the confliction between two selves to keep their own individual food preferences and is overcome by reaching compromise about food choice between two selves, because they realized that the compromise is inevitable for mutual survival and future benefits. In boxing match, fighting begins between identical bases of weights of body, but the game in CM world, the body size CACM is not important, but capability CACP is counted. Thus, the big size CACM of mom is not strong point, but rather become a weak point because mom's CACP is weakened by paying her attentions to CACM. So, mom has critical weakness in the game of CACP. Let's see baby fetus, who is in cycle 2, CACP of baby is more potential than that of mom in cycle 3 in terms of CML hierarchies. The winner will be baby, and the champions holds the rights of choosing preferred food. At early stage of morning sickness, fetus body is not enough developed to facilitate neural network, and so question is how do they communicate to reach the compromise? Is there any hotlines beyond neural network system like a wireless communication channel? It may be CACP that has capability of linking CMLs or cells, as explained at previous lecture part 2. In these connections, the particular experience of the pregnancy integrated experience of CACP, the interself experience, makes herself have a broadest acceptance of food. Now, let me explain the confliction between the mechanism of food acceptance. The virtual food is partly responsible for the integrated experience of CACP and completions toward food in dual life cycle system. Since the completion occurs on the basis of CACP, the role of fifth consciousness layers called sensorial consciousness is no longer influential on the choice of food in favor of mother, and thus passively has to carry out the order from the manager in higher level, the winner, the baby. This is one of my research results conducted with 2 women groups, PN, women's groups without experience of pregnancy, and PY groups, pregnant women groups with experience of pregnancy. The multidimensional scattering plot shows that the response of the PN subjects for food acceptance are densely concentrated in a narrow and limited zone of the sphere plots. In contrast, those of PY subjects are widely scattered across the sphere. The wide scatterings indicates that acceptance of food becomes broadened. In this line, the integrated experience of CACP, subjective experience built during the pregnancy, affects food-related behaviors including food appetites and choice, and it serves as communication channels between 2 selves to reach agreements regarding food choice. At here, we could find very important points that the confliction and compromises regarding food acceptance accounts for the building the integrated experience of CACP, shareable assets for 2 parties. This is the unique subjective experience that only PY groups can do and is formulated over time, ranging from moment to moment, from month to month until baby is born as the independent self. Let's symbolize the interregime system of 2 selves into an interregime module, abbreviated by IR module, with which I like to explain the mystic genetics continuities. This is the sequential chain of the IR modules, and the integrated experience of CACP serves as the connecting the modules, just like the passing button to next runner in a relay race. In this manner, the experience on food life is transferred from one to another generation in terms of consciousness continuity. It represents how the genetic continuities takes place with the pair of the material and consciousness, so-called CACP and CACM pairs. From the consciousness perspective, food terminologies are defined. The virtual food concepts constructed in consciousness affects the perception process. Food acceptance model is explained. Pregnancy is investigated in connection to food acceptance. In the next lecture, part 4, we'll cover the application of TM theory to practical food issues on food taste, and will introduce cognitive sensory evaluation of food taste, the measurements of food taste, and presentation of food taste. For further study of consciousness approaches to food science, you can read the book Metafood Physics. Thank you for your attention.